Hey everyone, and welcome back to another bedtime adventure. I'm Michelle Reeves, the author of the Rescue Quest series, and tonight we're diving into another 3 chapters of the first book in the series, which is also called Rescue Quest. So let's get started with chapter 7. Alice, is that you? Tom asked, feeling silly talking to the TV screen. The Alice-shaped character on screen waved its arms again and pointed a blocky arm at the letters on the floor. Tom couldn't believe his eyes. His sister was inside Minecraft. 100 questions whizzed through his mind, but he voiced only one. How the heck did you get in there? Alice just stared back at him blankly, not being able to reply. Don't worry, let me try something, Tom said, jumping up and walking over to the television. He reached out his fingers slowly towards the screen. He hesitated before his fingers reached the glass, wondering if they would pass completely through it. Bump. No, nothing happened. It was just cold, hard glass. Now that he was so close to the screen, Tom's attention swung back to Alice's avatar, which was now facing away from him. Following her eyeline, he saw a strange mist rolling across the Minecraft world, and out of it emerged another character. Tom almost rubbed his eyes, not believing what he was seeing for the second time. But with surprise and horror, Tom knew he was right. It was a character that shouldn't have been there because officially it didn't exist. Tom had heard about it from one of his favourite YouTubers, and apparently a few other players had seen it too, although Anna and Lev had never seen it either. He'd checked. But the company that made Minecraft denied they'd ever built it into the game. That meant little to Tom though, because right now the character was heading out of the mist and straight towards Alice. Herobrine looked like a normal Minecraft character's evil twin. His eyes glowed bright white, his hair stuck up in spikes and his mouth twisted into a mean grin bordered by a small square beard. He didn't run, bounce or fly like other characters either. He glided, and he wasn't alone. In his wake, a mass of mobs were scuttling, walking and flickering forward. Giant spiders, skeletons carrying bows and arrows, tall endermen, green creepers and grey zombies moved as one, spilling over the ground towards his sister. Tom didn't like the look of this at all. He'd never seen so many mobs together. They didn't normally travel in packs, and besides, he thought he'd used the peaceful setting for this world. Alice, get out of there, he shouted at the TV screen. But either Alice couldn't hear him or she wasn't listening. Everything okay? Grandma Jo called from the kitchen. Yes, everything's fine. We're just playing, Tom called back quickly, not taking his eyes off the screen. Okay, I'm going to go and lie down for a while. Come and get me if you need anything or if your dad comes home, all right? She replied. Yes, thank you. Okay, Tom said, hearing her heavy footsteps going up the stairs. On the TV screen, Herobrine had arrived in front of Alice, his head crooked to one side, twitching or glitching, Tom couldn't tell which. They appeared to be having a conversation. Then suddenly, Herobrine's arms reached forward and lifted Alice, hoisting her high above his head. Tom was rooted to the spot as Herobrine turned round and began gliding back towards the mist, Alice's blocky arms and legs swinging wildly. No, 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 Tom shouted at the screen, but the mobs had closed behind them both, and within a matter of seconds, they were gone. Chapter 8. Tom stared blankly at the space where his sister had stood only moments before inside his favourite video game. A cow wandered past the same spot and bounded up onto a block before bouncing back down again. Everything about the scene looked familiar to Tom, but now it all felt completely different. What should I do? He thought, panicking. His little sister had just been kidnapped by a Minecraft character and disappeared. He wondered for a moment if he was daydreaming or hallucinating and pinched his arm hard to wake himself up. Ouch, he said aloud. He definitely wasn't asleep. His stomach churned. For a moment he wanted to run straight to Grandma Jo and tell her what had happened, but he had a feeling she wouldn't believe him and she'd just think they were playing hide and seek or something. After all, who'd ever heard of someone being inside a computer game? The familiar feeling of panic started rising from his toes. What if I can't get Alice back and she's gone forever? What will I say to Mum and Dad? Where has Herobrine taken her? How is any of this even happening? Tom paced around the room, wringing his hands. His stomach hurt and he felt sick, the peanut butter and jam sandwiches threatening to make another appearance. I've got to do something. I've got to get her back, he thought as he mentally replayed Alice being kidnapped. Adrenaline flowed through him as he scrambled back to the sofa and snatched up his controller. No matter how scared he felt inside, he still had to try. He pressed the home button again, willing it to work. 1, 2, 3 heartbeats passed, but still nothing. Ah, you stupid thing, why won't you work? He growled in frustration, stabbing his fingers on every button randomly. Suddenly, the screen in front of him flickered and went blank before the word Minecraft appeared, surrounded by a black and brown cave of blocks. Yes, it's rebooting, he thought. In the centre of the screen was a box which usually displayed an odd fact about the game, like, to tame a turtle, feed it seagrass. But now it said something completely new. 3 travellers with hearts of gold, the Nether mystery unfold. Rescue those stolen away, invisible, you'll win the day. Battling skulls free the light to win, and you'll end where you begin. But only those who shine within will earn the right to play again. Tom wondered what on earth it meant, but then the screen dissolved and once again the familiar Minecraft landscape appeared. Tom's finger hovered above the option button. If he pressed it twice, he would normally enter the world as his character Steve, but nothing about today had been normal so far. His finger pressed once, twice. Nothing happened for a moment, and Tom glanced up at the clock and made a note of the time, 4 o'clock. His breath caught in his throat and he closed his eyes, making a silent wish for this to work. When he opened them again, everything seemed just the same, and he let out his breath in a whoosh, fluttering a discarded tissue on the coffee table in front of him that Alice must have used to wipe the peanut butter and jam from her mouth. It was then that he noticed a path on the screen that he hadn't seen before. It was just to the right of where Alice had been standing, and it seemed to lead towards a small cluster of buildings. As Tom watched, something strange happened. The screen in front of him wobbled gently, like the raspberry jelly he sometimes had at school for lunch, and the path appeared to grow outwards towards him. Centimetre by centimetre, it spilled out into the room, becoming wider as it did so, until it met the floor and stopped just in front of the sofa at Tom's feet. Gingerly, Tom tapped the path with his toe. It felt solid. He stood up and tried taking a step forward. He could feel the sandy ground and hear a slight crackle like he was treading on rice pops that had been half buried. Tom took another step away from the sofa, and as he rounded the corner of the table, it seemed as if the living room was suddenly getting bigger and twisting to one side. The distance from the sofa to the TV was only a couple of steps, but it seemed to be much farther away now, and as Tom took another step forward to close the gap, he realised it wasn't the living room that was growing, it was him shrinking. 2 more steps and Tom was in front of the screen, except now it was so tall and so wide he could only just make out the top and the sides. In front of him he could see the blocky landscape of the plains biome that Alice had been playing in, but now it was life-size. He tentatively stretched out his hand, expecting to feel the solid screened glass surface again. But this time it gave a little under his fingers, like the skin of a balloon. He pushed a little and a dimple appeared. A little more and it became a dip, which got deeper and deeper until, with a soft pop, his hand went through the screen and he felt a strong pulling sensation like he was being sucked up by a hoover. Bit by bit, the screen pulled his arm and shoulder through. Tom squeezed his eyes tight shut and held his breath as his head was squished through the wobbly, plasticky screen. Chapter 9. Tom opened his eyes and promptly sunk up to his knees in mud. Yuck! He squelched his blocky feet up and down. Glancing down at his body, he realised he was dressed in his usual Minecraft character, Steve, complete with a turquoise t-shirt, blue trousers and dark grey square shoes. He twisted his body, noticing his squared-off arms and legs. He didn't feel any different, but he certainly looked different. Looking around, he saw the oak stable that he'd built on his left and a large paddock on the right, full of horses for Alice. Next to the stable was a kennel for his pet wolf, Fang. Further ahead he could see a village of small houses with a large building in its centre and a path that wound its way towards a group of trees with mountains in the distance, one of which was strangely darker than the others. He bent down and ran his hand over the grass that bordered the mud he was standing in. It felt similar to real grass, but thicker and more angular. He noticed the leaves on the trees weren't moving. In fact, there was no breeze at all. He stood up and studied the ground more closely. Yes, he thought, there are faint lines that make out the square blocks, but it's smoother and less obvious than when I'm playing on screen. The screen! He swung around to look for the TV screen he'd just passed through, but there was nothing there. Nothing, except a furious-looking Minecraft girl holding a shovel. "What exactly are you doing?" she said crossly. Her dark brown hair flowed over her shoulders, the top strands pulled back from her face. She wore a green and brown top with cutouts for her shoulders, grey trousers and white sneakers. Tom looked past her and saw a fence surrounding the mud he was squelching in. He followed the fence back to where he was standing, right in the middle of a now broken panel. Sorry," he said, "I seem to have broken your fence. And you've let my pigs escape." Tom noticed the pink pigs that were shuffling towards the village. "Yes," he answered sheepishly, not sure what else to say. "Well, don't just stand there," the girl said. "Help me fix it and get them back. I don't have time for this." Tom watched as she closed her eyes and then reached behind her back. When her arm reappeared again, she was holding the exact piece of fence needed to fill the gap Tom was standing in. "Are you going to move?" she asked him, frowning. "Oh, yes, sure." He watched as she placed the fence panel on the ground in the gap where it slowly merged with the rest of the fence. After a moment, the fence was as good as new. "That's cool," Tom thought. He guessed that when she closed her eyes, she must have been looking in her inventory, and perhaps she'd selected the fence panel when her arm went behind her back. He wanted to ask her if he was right, but he wasn't sure how to start the conversation. Does she even know she's part of a computer game, he wondered. He decided that she was already cross with him, and clearly in a rush, he postponed the questioning for now. The girl gave him a quizzical stare. "You're not from around here, are you?" she said, finishing her repairs. "No, I'm just travelling through," he said, and then remembering the urgency to search for Alice. "Anyway, I better be going." "Not until you've helped me round up my pigs, you're not. They cost me 10 iron ingots," she replied. "Come on, they're getting away." The girl jumped over the fence and bounced away from him towards the houses, her long brown hair hardly moving as she went. Tom hesitated for a moment and then chased after her, his arms and legs swinging easily with little effort. After all, he thought, I don't know yet if everything works here the same as when I'm playing at home, and perhaps if I help her, she might help me. Tom realised happily that running here was much easier than games lessons at school. He'd always struggled with sports. He huffed and puffed to keep up with his classmates in cross-country training, and the ball sailed past him in football. His face flushed at the thought of the name-calling he usually got from Hunter and his gang. It was rubbish being the smallest boy. Thankfully, in Minecraft, he was the same size as the other characters. One more reason he loved the game. When he caught up with the girl, she'd already attached leashes to the 3 pigs and was leading them back to their pen. She didn't seem to need his help at all. "I'm Tom, by the way," he said, walking alongside her. "I'm Serena Fairox. Hold this, will you?" She gave him a leash and kept walking. The pig attached to it promptly sat down, and Tom had to drag it back to its feet and catch up with her again. Tom decided his need for information outweighed an awkward conversation. "Hey, just wondering, but how did you have the exact fence post you needed?" he asked. Serena touched the gate of the pigsty and it swung open. "It was in my stash," she replied offhandedly. "I traded it for some pork chops a while back." That was interesting, but not really what Tom meant. "No, I mean, how did you do it?" he asked. "You really aren't from around here, are you?" It was a statement more than a question this time, and Serena looked at him quizzically. "Look, I'm not supposed to be here," Tom said, feeling his way. "I'm from out there." He pointed up into the sky where he thought the screen might have been that he came through. "I play this game sitting on the sofa at home and I love it more than anything, but then something happened. My sister disappeared and now I'm inside it with you," he continued. "What, you're a gamer? A real live gamer?" Serena stared at him again, this time open-mouthed. Yes, said Tom, and before I arrived here, I saw someone take my sister, Alice. I have to find her. We have to get home. His voice quivered a bit as he spoke, and he tried to run his hands through his hair, but his blocky arm made it tricky. Well, that changes everything, Serena said, bounding off towards the large building in the centre of the village so that Tom had to hurry to keep up again. The burgomaster needs to hear about this, and this time he's going to listen to me. Who's the burgomaster? Tom called, setting off after her. But she was already too far away to hear him. And that's the end of Chapter 9 in Rescue Quest. I'll see you next time for more Minecraft adventures with Tom, Anna and Lev. Like, comment and subscribe so you don't miss out. Bye for now.